Chapter 651. Guilt-ridden Tai by Yunxing. The stagnation of his cultivation was only the main drawback. Other than that, there were many other smaller drawbacks. One of them was the fact that he had no sense of pain. His cognition slowing down was another problem. In this world, Wisdom Path had already deciphered the mysteries behind how a person thinks. When a person thinks, many thoughts would be created in their minds. Intelligent people would generate a large number of thoughts more quickly, while stupid people would generate fewer thoughts and at a slower pace. When these individual thoughts collide into one another, they would fuse or possibly be destroyed, eventually. One or more new thoughts would be created. These new thoughts would be the result of their thinking. The brain is the place which gives birth to thoughts. It is an important domain for all life forms when they think. But this domain is decided on two aspects. Point one was the body, while the other was the soul. If a person's soul resided in a wild beast body, then this wild beast would become very intelligent. This level of intelligence would far surpass an ordinary wild beast, but would be lower than a normal human being. Gu is the essence of heaven and earth. Man is the spirit of all beings. Among all living beings, humans were the most intelligent. To achieve this, one needed a human's physical body and a human soul. Now that Fang Yuan's body was completely dead, only his soul was intact. Thus, in his mind, the number of thoughts generated would be much fewer, and the speed of his cognition would reduce greatly. Intensive thinking would lead to a sharp fall in the number of thoughts. Because the zombie's mind produces fewer thoughts, and at a slower pace, the thoughts generated cannot keep up with the expenditure of thoughts. If Fang Yuan was a brute, so be it. But he was very skilled at scheming. He was an ambitious person who was used to plotting in order to succeed in situations. After becoming a zombie, he felt very uncomfortable. He was not used to this new change at all. No wonder most zombies like First Jin Gu choose to enter deep sleep. When one is sleeping, they would think less, and the consumption of their thoughts would fall sharply. Thus they would be able to accumulate more thoughts in their mind. When they battle, they would think intensely and use up these thoughts. Fang Yuan had a new understanding in his mind. This was the same reason as that of Giant Sun's will, who chose to enter deep sleep. The less I think, the more dull and slow I would become. To think that one day, Fang Yuan, would turn into an idiot. Hiki. Fang Yuan mocked himself in his mind, collecting his scattered thoughts. Next, he turned to Little Who Immortal. Bring my senior brother, Tai Bai Yunxing, in here. I want to meet him. Little Who Immortal replied to him obediently, immediately vanishing from the spot. She was the land spirit. She could freely teleport anywhere within Who Immortal blessed land. After 10 breaths of time, Little Who Immortal reappeared. This time bringing Tai Bai Yunxing with her. Junior brother. You. Sigh. What shall we do now? Taking a look at Fang Yuan, Tai Bai Yunxing was stunned. His eyes turned red as he spoke in a choking voice. He already was aware of the fact regarding Fang Yuan turning into a 6-armed, heavenly zombie king completely. This was something Fang Yuan had specified to Little Who Immortal earlier, as something that could be exposed to Tai Bai Yunxing. Fang Yuan laughed heartily. Originally, I had advanced into a strength path Gu Immortal. What a pity that I have ended up in this state. There is no choice. I will have to continue calling you senior brother. Come. Senior brother, this is a crude place. Please find a block of stone and take a seat. The cave that Fang Yuan was in now was dug out from the center of Dang Hun Mountain back in the day by Fairy Bai Hu. It was the place where she had built Dang Hun Palace, after Dang Hun Mountain was destroyed by the Gruel Mud Immortal Gu. Fang Yuan had returned it to normal with Tai Bai Yunxing. The restored Dang Hun Mountain retained this mountain cave, but the golden bricks, the silver tiles, the pink curtains, the large round bed, the golden silk blankets, and the fragrant wind chimes that were in Dang Hun Palace were nowhere to be found. Rank 6 Immortal Gu landscape as before, it could restore any mountain or body of water back to a state in the past. The furniture inside Dang Hun Palace did not count as being part of a mountain or body of water. Of course, Fang Yuan did not want to restore the former Dang Hun Palace, either. After all, Fairy Bai Hu's bedroom was way too pink. It was filled with a feminine aura and did not suit Fang Yuan. There was no furniture in the mountain cave. It was really crude and simple. Tai Bai Yunxing chose the boulder closest to Fang Yuan and sat down. Right now, his inner thoughts were filled with concern, gratitude, and unconditional trust towards Fang Yuan. After all, the two of them had braved dangers and near-death experiences together. They had gone through a lot in northern plains, and had witnessed the sincerity and feelings in each other's hearts. Not to mention the 2 times Fang Yuan had helped Tai Bai Yunxing in the true inheritance secluded domain, he did not hesitate at all, not even batting an eyelid. The first time, it was to retrieve landscape as before immortal Gu, while the second time, he gave up on man as before immortal Gu in order to save Tai Bai Yunxing's life. During that moment, Tai Bai Yunxing was so touched his tears nearly flowed down his cheeks. He had a Gu immortal inheritance. He naturally knew the immense attraction an immortal Gu had towards a Gu immortal. Fang Yuan gave up on the immortal Gu in order to save him, Tai Bai Yunxing. This completely displayed Fang Yuan's true feelings. After that, Tai Bai Yunxing was captured by He Lulan. Fang Yuan immediately changed his direction, taking back man as before Gu first. Tai Bai Yunxing was in complete agreement with his actions and his heart settled. This was truly a rational decision. When he woke up, he found that he was inside Hu immortal blessed land and was out of danger. Tai Bai Yunxing was jubilant. Being able to luckily maintain his life was naturally a very joyous matter. But what made him even happier was that afterwards, seeing that he had woken up, little Hu immortal returned landscape as before and man as before. These 2 immortal Gu back to him. Tai Bai Yunxing had a soft and kind nature. He had deep attachment towards these 2 immortal Gu. Regaining his important treasures after losing them, he was truly overjoyed. But when he heard about Fang Yuan's situation from little Hu immortal, his heart shuddered. All of his joy was swept away. His inner thoughts was filled with sadness, guilt, regret, and pity. Thus, he had repeatedly tried to meet Fang Yuan, attempting to give it his all to save this junior brother. At this moment, he sat on the stone boulder. He had an expression of grief as he sighed deeply. I am ashamed. Not only did junior brother save this life of mine, I even have to bear your consolation and kind words after meeting you. Fang Yuan stretched out one arm, patting Tai Bai Yunxing's shoulders, using his hoarse voice as he laughed. Destiny is unpredictable. Most things in life do not go your way. As a person, we should be more open-minded. Although I became a zombie, it is still halfway between life and death. Compared to those dead people in Giant Sun's will, we are much better. Especially when at the final moment, I even obtained wisdom Gu. This is a huge profit. Senior brother does not need to blame yourself. You should be happy. When Fang Yuan was leaving, he opened the Stargate. Wisdom Gu knew that this was a tunnel to the outside world. Its survival instincts urged it to fly towards Fang Yuan on its own initiative. This was something Fang Yuan had expected. Stargate Gu was a mortal Gu. It could not contain the aura of an immortal Gu. Fang Yuan gritted his teeth as he forcefully placed Wisdom Gu in his immortal aperture. Even though Wisdom Gu restrained its own aura and Fang Yuan's immortal aperture was a dead land, having much greater capability to support it, Fang Yuan was barely able to handle it during the short period of time needed to pass through the Stargate. The moment he returned to Hu immortal blessed land, he quickly let Wisdom Gu out. Hu immortal blessed land was a rank 6 immortal aperture, but it was situated on Tianti Mountain. It took in the Earth Chi of Central Continent and was very stable. It was not comparable with an immortal aperture that was still in a Gu immortal's body. Regarding Wisdom Gu, Tai Bai Yunxing was aware of the matter. An outstanding person will do outstanding things. Junior brother's abilities have truly made me feel nothing but deep admiration. But even the legendary rank 9 immortal Gu would not be able to treat junior brother's zombie body. Why don't you let me try and use man as before Gu? Tai Bai Yunxing was very emotional. At this point, he had already stood up, ready to give it a try. But Fang Yuan stopped him. Senior brother, you know clearly deep within your mind that this man as before immortal Gu can only return a person to a prior state within one moment in the past. Although it can revive a person, such a long time has already gone by. I do not know what countless number of moments have passed since then. How can it possibly heal me? It will be in vain even if you try. Why should you waste your precious green grape immortal essence? Tai Bai Yunxing's expression was ashen. His emotions were unstable. When Fang Yuan had finished his words, he suddenly stretched out his palms, slapping harshly on his own face. Crack, crack, crack. 5 to 6 sharp sounds were heard. Tai Bai Yunxing was actually slapping himself. Senior brother, stop it. What are you doing this for? Fang Yuan acted like he was caught off guard. He hurriedly stood up, stretching out 2 arms and grabbing Tai Bai Yunxing's hands. Tai Bai Yunxing could not compete with Fang Yuan's strength at all. After being immobilized, he cried profusely, Junior brother, I have let you down. I am really very sorry. As he cried, his knees bent as he actually attempted to kneel down. Fang Yuan quickly grabbed him, asking in shock, Senior brother, what are you doing? Junior brother, if back then, I had lent man as before immortal Gu to you, you would have been able to use it at the crucial moment and would not have turned into this current form. Tai Yunxing said with a tear-stricken face. He was a very kind person. Although he had indirectly caused the death of Gao Yang and Zhu Zai in the past, that was just a person's instincts to survive. To him, Fang Yuan was the savior of his life, a benefactor. He was also his junior brother. They had the same master, but this person who was his benefactor and junior brother was harmed because of his own negligence. If back then, Tai Yunxing had taken the initiative to lend his goo worm to Fang Yuan, Fang Yuan would not have ended up in such an awkward state. After Tai Yunxing woke up, this thought had been lurking in his mind. It caused him to feel great grief and regret. He was in deep agony. At this moment, Tai Yunxing was weakly falling towards the ground. He was in agony and regret. He was only supported by Fang Yuan's 2 arms. Fang Yuan was 6 meters tall. He looked down at the crying Tai Yunxing from above as a trace of eeriness flashed across his eyes. "I am very glad that you have such thoughts." He laughed in his mind, but with his mouth he sounded very sincere as he said, "Senior brother, you do not need to be like this. Although a zombie's body is very hard to revert, there exist many ways and methods that are available for me. And don't forget that we have wisdom goo here." Tai Yunxing slowly shook his head. He spoke weakly. Wisdom goo is as high as rank 9. It came here with you all because of its survival instincts. Junior brother, even if you are a rank 6 goo immortal, you are unable to refine it, and there is no way you can control it. Of course I understand this. But even like this, just a bit of the light of wisdom is able to give me great rewards. In fact, my current zombie body has no lifespan. It is even more suitable for getting close to wisdom goo. Fang Yuan stretched out his 3rd arm, patting Tai Yunxing's back lightly as he explained amicably. "And what's more, I still have Mo Yao's will." Mo Yao? Tai Yunxing was confused. This was an additional gain of mine in 88 True Yang building. Mo Yao was once a refinement path grandmaster, a certain generation's fairy of Central Continent's Spirit Affinity House. Tai Yunxing was a born and bred man of Northern Plains. He had never heard of Mo Yao's name, but as Spirit Affinity House was one of the famous top 10 sects of Central Continent, he had heard of it before. A certain generation's fairy of Spirit Affinity House, as well as a refinement path grandmaster. It seems that this Mo Yao is not simple. Tai Yunxing's gloomy expression eased. Fang Yuan laughed again, saying, "And most importantly, senior brother, don't forget that we still have Master. I am sure that Master has a solution for this. I will not hide this from you. After Master handed me the mission for 88 True Yang building, he only left me a single consumable goo, with the specific use of reporting the details to him. I had already used this goo 2 days ago, when I first returned to Hu Immortal Blessed Land." Fang Yuan had searched Tai Yunxing's soul earlier in 88 True Yang building, and learned about his life experiences as well as secrets. Tai Yunxing had once met a mysterious beggar, and obtained a time path goo immortal inheritance from him. Thus, Fang Yuan lied and swindled, using his eloquent tongue and world-class acting skills to convince Tai Yunxing in 88 True Yang building, making him believe that both of them have the same master, which is that old beggar. Fang Yuan even gave that old beggar a random title of Purple Mountain True Monarch. Tai Yunxing believed this lie from Fang Yuan completely. Now that Fang Yuan mentioned this, Tai Yunxing's eyes were shining. "So junior brother has a method to contact Master. This is truly fantastic. Others might not have a way, but Master is such a knowledgeable person. I am sure he has a method." The fires of hope were burning in his heart. From his tone, one could tell that the old beggar held a very important position within his inner thoughts. Tai Yunxing was filled with confidence towards this old beggar. If at this moment he knew the truth, who knows what expression he would show. Fang Yuan showed no flaws, replying calmly, "Senior brother, don't be hasty. I believe that Master's letter is going to come in a few days. We should wait patiently." Tai Yunxing nodded. After Fang Yuan used the name of Purple Mountain True Monarch, his mood had finally calmed down. He stood up straight, as Fang Yuan let go of his arms. Tai Yunxing took a step back. His gaze was locked with Fang Yuan's bright red eyes. He raised his palm and placed it by his chest, saying with a very solemn expression, "Junior brother, I will engrave your kindness deep into my heart. I will never forget it. I swear to longevity heaven, even if Master has no way to cure you. I, Tai Yunxing, will spend my entire life looking for a way to revive you, junior brother." Haha. Longevity heaven is giant sun immortal venerable's grotto heaven. We have just wrecked this old fellow's True Yang building. Now you are swearing in its name. This is simply too ironic. Fang Yuan raised his head and laughed. Senior brother, I will be frank with you. We are all master's pupils, and I have saved your life before. A droplet received in need will be repaid with an entire spring. Next, I will need you to repay me fully. Tell me. Tai Baiyunxing immediately responded without hesitation. He had long since decided to repay this debt. Even if Fang Yuan wanted him to do the impossible, he would have no objections. During these days after he woke up, he had felt extremely guilty. His conscience was taking a beating, and only by making a sacrifice for Fang Yuan would his heart feel slightly better. Thus, Fang Yuan also became solemn. This matter. I have been thinking about it for a long time. That is our seniority issue. I am Master's legacy disciple, but because you became an immortal, you caught up to me. I am unsatisfied with this. I was originally a strength pathgu immortal, even though I turned into a zombie, but sooner or later, there will be a day when I revert back. Thus, according to seniority, I am the senior brother, you are the junior brother. What? Tai Baiyunxing stared with his eyes wide open. He had never expected that the great debt Fang Yuan was requesting him to pay back was for such a tiny matter. A touch feeling welled up in his heart. Fang Yuan was someone who did not want to take advantage of his favor, but was he, Tai Baiyunxing, someone who did not know how to repay favors? Tai Baiyunxing thought in his mind. He sighed and stretched out his palm, patting Fang Yuan's leg, which was tough like a mountain rock. His sharp and rough leg hair even caused pain to Tai Baiyunxing's palm. Fang Yuan was like a giant, about 6 meters tall. Tai Baiyunxing could only pat his leg with that height. He was solemn, before raising his head, looking at Fang Yuan's face. He laughed teasingly. Oh, junior brother, that is wishful thinking. How can a thing like seniority be so easily changed? Unless Master personally rearranges our positions, I will definitely still be your senior brother. Ha ha ha. Tai Baiyunxing was a man not lacking in pride. How could he repay this huge favor so easily? Hey! Fang Yuan shouted, venting his unhappiness. Old Bai, why are you such a petty person? Could it be that you forgot what I said earlier? I will definitely not call you senior brother. Ha ha ha, junior brother, I can completely understand you. This senior brother does not mind. Tai Baiyunxing laughed and laughed. He was so touched his tears were overflowing. How many years had passed in which he had not laughed so joyfully? He had finally found his organization. Although he had not known Fang Yuan for long, he felt very close to him. It was as if they were family. His laughter was echoing in the mountain cave, with the pink crystal mountain walls also looking very heartwarming at this moment. Chapter 652. Seeing Wisdom Gu again. There was only Fang Yuan left in the cave. Tai Baiyunxing had already left. He sat on the stone bench. His 8 monstrous arms were hanging down. Some were behind his back. Some were crossed, together with his huge body, just by sitting. He gave off a mountainous aura. It gave people fear. As for the way to deal with Tai Baiyunxing, Fang Yuan had considered it deeply. Fang Yuan only trusted himself. He would never truly trust others. If he killed Tai Baiyunxing, he would obtain manas. Before Gu and landscape is before Gu, as well as his rank 6-time path immortal aperture. But this was not maximizing his benefits. He could not deny the fact that Tai Baiyunxing was a very useful chess piece. This useful was in 2 aspects. Firstly, he was worth using. Before he became an immortal, he was a famous healing Gu master in Northern Plains. Now that he was a rank 6-time path Gu immortal with a high-grade blessed land, and don't forget, he was even a flying master, he had great value if exploited. The second aspect was that he was easy to control. Fang Yuan had once searched his soul, thus he knew about Tai Baiyunxing's life experience clearly. Tai Baiyunxing was a kind-hearted man. He was conscientious and knew how to repay favors. He was indebted to Fang Yuan, because he had been helped several times in True Yang building, especially during the final moment when he was rescued from the wind veil of assimilation, and even had his 2 immortal Gu returned to him. Tai Baiyunxing had placed his complete trust in Fang Yuan now. This point could be seen when Tai Baiyunxing chose his seat earlier. There were many boulders in the cave. Fang Yuan had such an ugly appearance and was so huge, normal people who got close to Fang Yuan would feel great pressure and would subconsciously keep a distance from him. But Tai Baiyunxing purposely chose a seat that was closest to Fang Yuan. This meant that in his heart, Fang Yuan was one of the closest people to him. He was not afraid that Fang Yuan would cause any harm to him. Tai Baiyunxing had once harmed Gao Yang and Zhu Zai. This was the most important point. His survival instincts took over his reasoning. This was something very natural. After that incident, Tai Baiyunxing was filled with guilt and could not forget it. His appearance was haggard, and he was mentally tortured. After Fang Yuan's entrapment, he had almost gone crazy and rushed his immortal ascension. His original intention was to die, attempting suicide because of his guilt. One could see how powerful his conscience was. By coincidence, Tai Yunxing received the help of Giant Sun's will and successfully became a Gu immortal. Before falling unconscious, Fang Yuan used the glass owner token, entering the round of 88 True Young building he was placed in, and woke him up. At this crucial moment, he told Tai Yunxing about the secret of their master. This precisely hit a weak point within Tai Yunxing's mental state. Tai Yunxing denied his own self, thus he was in great agony and was very lost. But at this moment, Fang Yuan appeared, giving him a group of apprentices and an organization to provide him a sense of belonging. It gave him a feeling of protection and warmth. Next, Fang Yuan entered and exited his time path immortal aperture, casually asking him to take care of his immortal Gu. This gave him the initial confidence. In addition, during their encounters and difficulties in True Young building, all that had happened gave Tai Yunxing a good reason to fully trust Fang Yuan. In a way, he had to thank Mo Yao for interfering with his own mind. Otherwise, how could he have obtained Tai Yunxing's unconditional trust? Tai Yunxing caused the death of Gao Yang and Zhu Zai. This greatly violated his values and beliefs. He harbored extreme guilt. He felt that he was not such a person, yet he committed such an act. Now that I am his benefactor, he is indebted to me. He will definitely repay me 100-fold or even 1,000-fold. This is not only because he knows to repay favors, but also because this is a chance for him to prove that he is a good person. Fang Yuan calmly analyzed. Bad people would not repay favors. In fact, they would even return the favor with ill intentions. In the future, the more Tai Yunxing sacrifices for Fang Yuan, the more it would prove that he is a good person. That way, this can cancel out the guilt he felt towards Gao Yang and Zhu Zai. This touched upon the psychological studies from Earth, including the balance theory and compensation mentality. In a way, Fang Yuan gave Tai Yunxing a chance to prove himself once more, and a reason for him to continue living. Fang Yuan knew this clearly, thus when he saved Tai Yunxing, he even returned man as before and landscape as before. These two immortal Gu. I have way too many immortal Gu. It is very costly to feed them. At this point, leaving man as before and landscape as before to Tai Yunxing is undoubtedly better. At the same time, my immortal aperture is dead. It cannot produce immortal essence. I only have 19 beads of green grape immortal essence. The more I use them, the fewer I have left. Although I can use some of Baihu's immortal essence, isn't it best if I can make use of Tai Yunxing's green grape immortal essence instead? Thinking of the cost of feeding immortal Gu, Fang Yuan felt a headache. Raising a Gu worm was like supporting a mistress. Gu masters are often unable to afford it or maintain their upkeep. Ever since Fang Yuan had Hu immortal blessed land, he had no problems feeding mortal Gu. But now that he had so many immortal Gu, not even Hu immortal blessed land could afford such high costs. This was a blissful worry. Many Gu immortals did not have a single immortal Gu. They were still looking for one. In Fang Yuan's previous life, he also struggled to refine one, spring-autumn cicada. After he finally succeeded after numerous difficulties, he was forced to self-detonate. Right now, Fang Yuan was racking his brain, trying to think of how to feed so many immortal Gu. Fang Yuan sat silently, attempting to find some inspiration from his previous life's memories. After trying for a while, he gave up. Sigh, after becoming a zombie, my cognition has truly slowed down. Earlier when speaking to Tai Yunxing, I could feel my thoughts moving slowly. Right now, my thinking speed cannot keep up with my original pace. He summoned the land spirit, Little Hu Immortal. How is wisdom Gu? Where is it now? Little Hu Immortal was the blessed land's land spirit. She could understand everything that was happening in the blessed land. Master, wisdom Gu had gone deep underground since it was brought here by you. It found a Rockman cave and is currently slumbering inside. Little Hu Immortal closed her eyes. After sensing for a while, she opened her giant watery eyes and said this. Fang Yuan nodded, ordering, "Bring me there." The cave that Wisdom Gu was in was rather big. After Fang Yuan was brought over by Little Hu Immortal, he could still move about freely. Sensing that Fang Yuan had arrived, Wisdom Gu shone with a 5-colored light. Little Hu Immortal sat on Fang Yuan's shoulder, staring at Wisdom Gu curiously. This was the rank 9 Wisdom Gu. Although Little Hu Immortal could sense everything in the blessed land, but such a close-range encounter was still very rare. Oh Wisdom Gu, I helped you to escape and saved your life. According to our earlier agreement, it is time for you to hold your end of the deal. In the dark and gray cave, Fang Yuan's voice echoed. Wisdom Gu was silent. After a few breaths' time, it floated up into the air.at the same time. It summoned the light of wisdom. So beautiful. Little Hu Immortal stared with shining eyes, laughing joyfully. The sphere-shaped light of wisdom was shining in many colors. It engulfed Fang Yuan and Little Hu Immortal. Fang Yuan could instantly feel many of his thoughts colliding. He could think at lightning speed. This was the result of an accelerated cognition speed. This is so comforting. Little Hu Immortal slowly opened her eyes wide and stared dazedly. She was immersed in the wonderful feeling of being in the light of wisdom. But after a few breaths' time, her body started fading. Little Hu Immortal, you were formed from obsession. Although fused with the heavenly power, you are still restricted by the wisdom Gu. You cannot stay here for long. Quickly go back. Fang Yuan stretched out a finger, pointing at Little Hu Immortal's head, waking her up. Little Hu Immortal hugged her head. Her white cheeks turned red with excitement. Master, I can't believe I could become so smart. Wisdom Gu is amazing. She shouted, like a child who had found new toys. She was overjoyed. Master is most amazing. You could even get Wisdom Gu. Just let me stay here a bit longer. Is that okay? She started bootlicking Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan laughed heartily. It seems that Wisdom Gu had made you think more. Quickly get out. Saying so, his 2 fingers pressed on Little Hu Immortal's head. Little Hu Immortal's cute, tiny head was squeezed by Fang Yuan's finger. As he pressed again and again, Little Hu Immortal pouted slightly as she shook her head. Master, I am going to leave. She did not dare to disobey Fang Yuan's words. She vanished with a flash. The cave was quiet again. Fang Yuan did not sit down, since the zombie's body was extremely hard and tough. There was no difference in feeling between sitting or standing. He stood in the halo. The first thing he did was to inspect Mo Yao's will, which was suppressed in his immortal aperture. Mo Yao's will was unaffected by the light of wisdom. Even though he had confirmed this earlier in the wind veil of assimilation, Fang Yuan's heart was finally at ease after confirming it once again. Once the immortal aperture is formed, it is a small world. The walls of the immortal aperture are the walls of heaven and earth. It isolates the inside and outside. There is almost no outside force that can influence the small world inside. Fang Yuan shut his bright red eyes as he started to think and ponder. He had become a zombie. The production of thoughts in his mind had become much slower, and his cognition had also slowed. But the light of wisdom could cause his thoughts to collide at an increased speed. As they collided, he would expend a lot of thoughts in a short period of time. If he was another ordinary zombie basking in this light, although he would turn smarter for a moment, he would become an idiot immediately afterwards. But there were wills in Fang Yuan's mind. These wills were all formed from wisdom path Gu worms. They could think. Earlier, in order to deal with Mo Yao, Fang Yuan had delved into wisdom path and bought many different Gu worms like special will Gu, deliberate will Gu, sharp intent Gu, and so on. These wills all helped him at the last moments of his journey in northern plains. Right now, Fang Yuan's brain could no longer keep up. He had to use these wills as replacements. His primeval essence was limitless, thus his wills were also near infinite. Under the light of wisdom, the originally stable wills all melted like snow in sunlight. They were shrinking. What followed after was the appearance of flashes of inspiration, and his old memories were becoming clearer. As long as Fang Yuan concentrated and recalled his memories, these huge amounts of memories would vividly play out again in his mind. At this moment, the world seemed brighter, even before he had truly thought of the result. Fang Yuan already had many different ideas to resolve the problem. As long as he followed these methods, Fang Yuan was sure that he would be able to find the most suitable method to solve this problem. Chapter 653: Bankruptcy and Zombie Alliance. In the underground cave, Fang Yuan bathed in the light of wisdom and pondered deeply. Although I am reborn and have 500 years of experience from my past life, but in contrast to old monsters like Mo Yao and Giant Sun, I pale in comparison. My previous dominance in this aspect has already vanished. Throughout the flow of history, there were as many grand heroes as there were stars in the sky. In the history of humans, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable was an unrivaled expert that could seldom be produced even in 1,000,000 years. Fairy Mo Yao was a refinement path grandmaster, and back then was the Fairy of Spirit Affinity House. She was a famous and influential person with shocking talent. In those days, she would be listed among the top 10 renowned Gu immortals in the large central continent. Fang Yuan had firm willpower and had gone through unique experiences, but he was also a single unremarkable star in this vast starry sky. With just his current strength and foundation, it was hard for him to be on par with the great experts that appeared in history. This trip to Northern Plains has far surpassed my original expectations. If not for the meddling of Mo Yao's will, I could have stayed in True Yang building and explored gradually using a different identity every 10 years. But at this point, the die is cast and Northern Plains is bound to be in a great uproar. Countless experts and powerful forces will seek to find trouble with me. Fang Yuan summed up his experiences and sensed that the losses he suffered were due to his weakness in the aspect of wisdom path. His strong points were in calculating and scheming. In building upon his experience preserved from rebirth, his advantages were further amplified. However, Mo Yao's will was able to disturb his thoughts, which caused him to not be able to think properly. 88 True Yang building is a spiritual symbol of Northern Plains, and I am the main culprit in causing it to be toppled. If I am captured now, the consequences will be unimaginable. Although I am able to hide into a mortal blessed land right now, it is not actually safe. Not speaking of a mortal crane sect which has been eyeing Dang Hun Mountain since the beginning, perhaps Northern Plains Gu immortals could discover my origins and track me down through wisdom path deductions. Fang Yuan knew clearly that holing up within Hu immortal blessed land seemed extremely safe, but was actually akin to waiting for death. Only by going on the offensive before these enemies ascertained the truth could he remedy this perilous situation. Dark Limit Immortal Goo. I have heard of it even in my previous life. It can indeed conceal aura and obstruct calculations. If I can get this goo, I believe I can avert the dangerous situation. Fang Yuan thought of He Lulan. This woman was not of minor importance and was an outstanding, ruthless person. She was pragmatic and could flexibly take advantage of situations. She betrayed her ancestor for her own interests and wanted to kill her own father. These evidently displayed a demonic nature. She possessed great strength true martial physique and also obtained a strength path immortal goo. Once she advanced into a goo immortal, her path would be one of rapid progress. One could say that she was similar to Fang Yuan, but precisely because of this. In cooperating with her, it demanded exceptional caution. Whether it was immortal goo dark limit or fixed immortal travel, they were both things he desired. Fang Yuan's thoughts started to slow down as he thought till this point. The wills in his mind were nearly expended. Fang Yuan was dazed for a moment, before retreating from the light of wisdom to activate goo worms and create new wills. His mind was soon filled with many types of wills. It is a pity that mortal goo cannot create too many wills, and they are easily consumed in the light of wisdom. If I can use an immortal goo to create wills, their number would be enormous and could also be sustained for a long period of time, allowing me to think as much as I like. Fang Yuan felt some regret. He had a rank 6 wisdom path immortal goo, delight in water and mountain, which could create joyful will. However, Fang Yuan did not use it after slight consideration. Immortal goo required immortal essence. He only had 19 beads of green grape immortal essence left, and because his immortal aperture had become a dead land, using one immortal essence bead would mean one fewer bead left without replenishment. He needed to save his immortal essence as much as possible to be prepared for the times when they are necessary. Thus, he opted to use mortal goo for now. After accumulating a fixed amount of mortal wills, Fang Yuan stepped into the light of wisdom again. This time, he did not think about external situations, instead concentrating on himself. I have transformed into a zombie. My cultivation cannot progress an inch. How to resurrect and restore my human body is the first issue. It would be great if I could use yin-yang rotation goo, but I am an immortal zombie while yin-yang rotation goo only is at rank 4. The second issue is that I am already bankrupt. Fang Yuan had invested almost all of his savings in his trip to Northern Plains. His required expenses were now already greater than his earnings, and he was now facing bankruptcy. He did not even have one immortal essence stone in his possession now. Even Hu immortal blessed land had become extremely barren. Before the decisive battle in Northern Plains, Fang Yuan had already used up the remaining immortal essence stones. At the final juncture, he even had to exchange his goods to make purchases. He had already sold almost all the fox groups and wolf groups in Hu immortal blessed land. In the large grassland and the blessed land, foxes and wolves could only be seen occasionally. Most of the nearly 10,000 hairy men Fang Yuan had bought in the past were also sold for emergency support. Now there were only around 2,000 old hairy men that were experienced in refining goo left, which Fang Yuan was reluctant to sell off. The Rockman slave transactions had been a strong economic pillar for Fang Yuan. But after a mortal crane sect stopped the transactions, this pillar crumbled down. The Rockman trading market and Treasure Yellow Heaven had already been divided up completely, and it would be hard for Fang Yuan to squeeze in. This caused the already bad situation to turn worse. There was no use in merely having powerful battle strength. There must be enough resources to support one's cultivation. The way of Gu involved nurturing, using and refining. Gu masters could not just use Gu, they had to raise and also refine Gu. Fang Yuan was now a zombie. His cultivation had stagnated, which further increased the resources he required. Only by doing so could he have a higher chance of restoring his life. 3 days later, within Dang Hun Palace, Fang Yuan made simple arrangements once again, building a rough hall where stone chairs were arranged in 2 rows. The main chair was as spacious as a bed with its back as high as a monument. However, when Fang Yuan sat on it, it fit him just right. Tai Bai Yunxing was sitting on the first seat to Fang Yuan's left. His brows were furrowed as he held a small and exquisite white dove. This white dove was flickering with faint radiance. It was the rank 5 messenger dove Gu. Tai Bai Yunxing's consciousness left the messenger dove Gu after a few moments. He heaved a deep sigh and worriedly said, "Master does not plan on helping and is making this a test for junior brother." Fang Yuan nodded. "Right? Master criticized me in the letter, saying I was greedy for small gains, not listening to his advice before I left, and rashly opening Dichio inheritance, which caused me to encounter Mo Yao's will and created a series of ill consequences. So this time, he wants me to resolve this issue by myself. Sigh, Master's style has always been like this. It seems I have no other option but to work hard." Tai Bai Yunxing nodded, approving of Fang Yuan's last sentence. Back then, the old beggar disappeared right after giving him the Gu immortal inheritance, not concerned with anything else. This style was the same as Fang Yuan's test, thus Tai Bai Yunxing did not sense anything weird. Tai Bai Yunxing asked in a quiet voice, "Junior brother, you said Master had already taken in 6 legacy disciples. You were ranked 5th, grasping strength and enslavement path, with 2 Gu immortal inheritances. That means you have 5 other fellow disciples. How about we ask them for help?" Fang Yuan shook his head. What a joke. Of course it was not possible. This messenger dove Gu's contents were fabricated by Fang Yuan. Purple Mountain True Monarch's name was also casually made up by him. The 6 great legacy disciples were even more fictitious. How could one ask for help from those that did not exist? This is not possible. Fang Yuan gave a bitter smile, his gaze revealing extreme sincerity. First of all, I only have heard Master mentioning these fellow disciples once in a while. I have not personally seen them, and also don't know what their identities are or where they are located. More importantly, this is a task assigned by Master. He has already approved of your status in the letter and has ranked you as the 5th disciple, and has said you have to help me for this period of time to solve this issue. At the same time, he allowed me to retain and use all the spoils of battle from Northern Plains. This is the help Master is giving me. If I still ask for help from the other disciples, it would not be what Master wishes for. After all, this is his test for me." Tai Bai Yunxing worriedly and anxiously said, "Even if Master did not say it, I would still remain by junior brother's side and use all my strength to help you. What are your plans now?" "Old Bai, you also read the contents in the letter. Master mentioned for me to join Zombie Alliance." "What kind of organization is this Zombie Alliance?" Tai Bai Yunxing asked. He had just recently advanced into a Gu Immortal. As such, there were many things regarding Gu Immortals he did not know about. Zombie Alliance is just like what its name implies. It is an alliance of zombies. This alliance has existed since long ago, and reportedly it appeared in the medieval antiquity era, 300,000 years ago. Now, it is a superforce which is spread throughout the 5 regions. Its main headquarters is in Eastern Sea, with a branch in each of the other 4 regions. Fang Yuan introduced. It actually extends throughout the 5 regions. Could they be even more powerful than Northern Plains Huangjin family? Tai Bai Yunxing was moved. Fang Yuan shook his head. That isn't the case. Almost all of Zombie Alliance's members compose of zombies, and their higher-ups are immortal zombies like me. For the most part, these immortal zombies are Gu immortals who reached the end of their lifespan and had no choice but to turn into zombies to prolong their life. These Gu immortals' immortal apertures are dead. They cannot produce immortal essence, nor can they absorb heaven and earth chi, and after some time, their blessed land would start shrinking and parts of it would crumble. Thus, their battle strengths often can't compare to normal Gu immortals. Naturally, certain immortal zombies are exceptions. Zombie Alliance's branches were weaker than the respective region's superforces, but the headquarters at Eastern Sea was a level stronger than the native superforces, so it is like that. Tai Bai Yunxing had grown in knowledge. He then asked with some doubt, "Then why does Master want Junior Brother to join Zombie Alliance?" Fang Yuan thought for a moment before saying, "If a Gu immortal reached the end of their lifespan and transformed into an immortal zombie with no other choice left, then later on, if they obtain lifespan Gu, they are sure to want to resurrect." Originally, one of the purposes for Zombie Alliance's establishment was to help each other to research the method to regain a live physical body. So much time has gone by, they definitely have obtained some results. I think Master's purpose lies in this point. Tai Bai Yunxing was happy and also worried. This suggestion is really good. But how will you join Zombie Alliance? Fang Yuan laughed. Old Bai, you don't need to worry. Joining Zombie Alliance is extremely simple. I only need to show my status as an immortal zombie. It's that simple? Of course. Zombie Alliance is suppressed by all the super forces, thus they operate with much difficulty. As such, they are very eager to have more members in the Alliance. At the same time, an immortal zombie's identity is not easy to disguise. Zombie Alliance has researched very deeply and has many methods to distinguish between immortal zombies. I intend to join Northern Plains Zombie Alliance, but before this, we have to wait for someone. Hey Lulan, Tai Bai Yunxing blurted out. Fang Yuan nodded that he did not hide his plans to go to Northern Plains from Tai Bai Yunxing and had revealed almost everything, as he still needed to borrow the latter's strength in the future. Chapter 654, Asking Mo Yao's Will. Chapter 654, Asking Mo Yao's Will. Sigh. It has been so many years since I last saw a mirror willow. Mo Yao's Will sighed. She touched the one and only mirror willow tree, speaking with deep emotions as she recalled the memories of her past. Fang Yuan's will was by her side. He silently watched and did not say a word to disrupt her. This world was rotting and dark. It was Fang Yuan's dead immortal aperture. Fang Yuan had tricked Mo Yao's will into entering his immortal aperture, suppressing her afterwards. That Mo Yao was a refinement grandmaster. She was once a legendary Gu immortal. In the history of Central Continent, she had left behind her markings. Her will naturally had great value. Although Fang Yuan was harmed by Mo Yao's will and had gone through a near-death experience in Northern Plains, Fang Yuan did not hate Mo Yao's will. On the contrary, there was appreciation, even as much as admiration. If he was the one scheming, he might not have done any better than Mo Yao's will. He was prepared to interrogate Mo Yao's will, but it turned out that she was extremely cooperative. Towards the questions that Fang Yuan asked regarding refinement path, not only did she answer all of them, she even elaborated on the points, and Fang Yuan gained huge insights from her words. But when Fang Yuan asked about the information of Spirit Affinity House, Mo Yao's will suddenly had a request. I have been away from Central Continent for so many years. Over these years, I have been missing the people and things over there more and more. Please find for me a tree of the mirror willow. It will alleviate my longingness for my homeland. Mirror willows were ordinary plants. They were about the size of ordinary willow trees, but their leaves were like pieces of mirrors. The leaves of these willows were the food of beggar moths that in the past, during the Rockman transactions, Fang Yuan had purchased a batch of mirror willows from Immortal Crane sect and had planted them into immortal blessed land. Thus, he casually picked one of them and placed it into his immortal aperture. Back in the day, my main body and brother Bo Qing had first met each other under this mirror willow. The world moves on after a genius perishes, Mo Yao's will sighed. Immediately after, she turned around, looking at Fang Yuan's will. Thank you for acceding to my request. Since you want to know about Spirit Affinity House's matters, I will tell you about them. However, my information is extremely dated. You need to take note of this. Fang Yuan's will nodded. Mo Yao's will stood below the mirror willow, telling him much of Spirit Affinity House's inside information. Fang Yuan listened to her as he made comparisons to his 500 years of experience. His understanding of Spirit Affinity House greatly increased. Your immortal aperture is already dead. The mirror willow will be corroded by the death energy and turn into a dead tree in less than 3 days. What a pity. After giving him Spirit Affinity House's details, Mo Yao sighed again. But it unclear whether her pity was directed towards the mirror willow or Fang Yuan's immortal aperture. The next time you come here, can you bring a cup of Qingpu tea? This is Spirit Affinity House's specialty tea. It is not rare. Although I cannot taste it, I would like to see it. Mo Yao said. Fang Yuan's will snorted. It seems you have no awareness of your captive status. You are asking for this and that. Are you scheming something again? Mo Yao's will laugh charmingly. Oh Fang Yuan, you are too vigilant. Ever since my plan was exposed by you and was lured into the immortal aperture to be suppressed, I was already meat on the chopping block, subjected to your supervision at all times. You can do anything you want of me. How can I create any schemes, and how would I be able to execute them? However, let's speak openly. Even though I failed completely and have no way of turning this around, if you try and be forceful, you will get a very incomplete result. After all, soul searching is easy, but will searching is tough. If you were a wisdom path grandmaster, that would be possible, but sadly you have nearly no foundation in wisdom path. All your goo worms were bought randomly in the market. Wisdom path is different from other paths. It is mysterious and complex. You have not even reached the entry level yet. Mo Yao's will started criticizing Fang Yuan. She was not holding back at all. After all, she knew that Fang Yuan was very broad-minded. He was a rare and extraordinary demon. Indeed, at the next moment, Fang Yuan's will laughed. You are right, my wisdom path attainment is low, but thanks for your cooperation. From now on, you can live in my immortal aperture. I will bring the Qingpu tea next time. Saying so, his will flew into the sky. The immortal aperture opened a tiny slit, and this will flew all the way up into Fang Yuan's mind. In an instant, Fang Yuan learned of all the information that this will had gotten from Mo Yao. Indeed, he lacked methods to proper search wills. Soul searching was easy, will searching was hard. This was normal that if that was not the case. When wisdom path goo masters fight their enemies using wills, these would reveal their own secrets to their enemies when they are captured and taken. Precisely because will searching was hard, wisdom path goo masters used them to fight enemies. As for Mo Yao, she is indeed quite a formidable person. No wonder she could leave her name in history. Fang Yuan praised her, and sighed secretly. Mo Yao's will's plan was exposed. She had utterly failed. She could not even self-detonate. She was sealed in Fang Yuan's immortal aperture and was fully suppressed. But even in such a desperate situation, she did not give up. She cooperated with Fang Yuan, answering his questions for him. That was to display her value, and to fight for more time for herself if one day Fang Yuan encounters any danger and his immortal aperture shatters, or if he was captured by anyone, or died in the battlefield, Missouri Yao's will would have a chance to escape for freedom. That Mo Yao's will did not give up. Her persistent and unyielding attitude made Fang Yuan inwardly feel admiration towards her. That of course, if Fang Yuan had the proper methods and could search wills, he would strike at the first moment. But currently, Mo Yao's will was cooperating with him. This was better for his benefits. If I could really find a wisdom path inheritance, it would all be easier. Unfortunately, wisdom path is mysterious and deep. There are very few wisdom path goo masters and goo immortals in number. There are no wisdom path inheritances that I know of in my memories. Back then, Fang Yuan had collected some scattered wisdom path goo worms in treasure Yellow Heaven. He had mild progress in terms of wisdom path, but now that he was bankrupt, he had almost no purchasing power. He could not even continue this mild progress. As for the details of Red Lotus Demon Venerable's inheritance, he did not ask. Because Mo Yao's will knew Fang Yuan did not have any methods to deal with her yet. The two of them were smart people. They knew that asking forcefully was not possible. Master, Immortal Crane Sect's reply is here. At this time, Little Who Immortal appeared beside him, holding a rank 5-letter goo. Immortal Crane Sect suddenly stopped the purchase of Rockmen. Not long ago, Fang Yuan had sent them a letter to probe about this. Immortal Crane Sect's reply came very quickly. Fang Yuan took the letter goo and his consciousness went into it. The content of the letter was written in a tough stance. They requested for Fang Yuan to initiate the trade of Guts goo. Otherwise, Immortal Crane Sect would announce that Fang Yuan was a traitor of the sect and would mobilize the goo immortals to attack Who Immortal Blessed Land. A year ago, Fang Yuan had used fixed immortal travel and snatched Who Immortal Blessed Land from under everyone's nose. It was like he was taking food from a tiger. Immortal Crane Sect immediately reacted, using the similar appearance of Fang Yuan and Fang Zheng to announce that Fang Yuan was actually a disciple that Immortal Crane Sect had nurtured in secret. The other 9 sects thus recognized Immortal Crane Sect's victory. Immortal Crane Sect's plan was to remove the other 9 competitors, then deal with Fang Yuan single-handedly, attempting to take Hu Immortal Blessed Land for themselves. Fang Yuan was happy to see this. After all, the difficulty of dealing with solely Immortal Crane Sect was completely different from dealing with the 10 great sects at the same time. But this way, Fang Yuan silently agreed with Immortal Crane Sect's lie. He was Immortal Crane Sect's disciple, who Immortal Blessed Land is situated on Tian Mountain. Even the 10 great sects cannot attack it casually, as it would provoke public anger within Central Continent. But if they announced that I was a traitor of the sect, they would have the perfect reason to attack. Fang Yuan's expression was solemn. Thinking about the situation, he was not afraid. This was something that he had expected over a year ago, that he only did not expect that Immortal Crane Sect's patience had worn thin so quickly. Fang Yuan laughed, saying to Little Hu Immortal, "Bring Tai by Yunsheng here." Tai by Yunsheng heard this news, and his face turned gloomy. "What shall we do now?" Immortal Crane Sect is one of the 10 great ancient sects of Central Continent. It is a powerful force that surpasses Northern Plains super tribes. If they really attack, just the 2 of us cannot stop them. Fang Yuan laughed. Old Bai, I asked you here to inquire about your opinion regarding this difficult question. But the moment you met me, you asked me a question instead. Tai Bai Yunsheng gasped. He showed some embarrassment and shame as he frowned, thinking about it. Eventually, he had an idea. Didn't we ally with He Lulan? We can ask her to help us. Evidently, He Lulan's great battle strength was ingrained into Tai Bai Yunsheng's heart. Although He Lulan has the great strength true martial physique, even if she advance into a Gu Immortal successfully, with just the 3 of us, we cannot stop Immortal Crane Sect. Fang Yuan sighed and shook his head. Then what shall we do? What shall we do? Tai Bai Yunsheng paced back and forth, thinking hard. Fang Yuan looked at him, laughing but not saying a word. Suddenly, Tai Bai Yunsheng stopped in his tracks. He patted his head. "I've got it. Didn't Master ask you to join Zombie Alliance? We can totally join Zombie Alliance and use Zombie Alliance's force to threaten Immortal Crane Sect." But Fang Yuan shook his head, saying, "Zombie Alliance's structure is loose with little binding force, and Central Continent's Zombie Alliance branch is far inferior to Immortal Crane Sect. It is not threatening in the least. Furthermore, if I try to make use of Zombie Alliance, I will have to give up some benefits. I'm afraid that instead of Immortal Crane Sect, Zombie Alliance would be the first to benefit from this. That won't work too. Then what are we going to do?" Tai Bai Yunsheng raised his head and looked at Fang Yuan with a bitter, frowning expression. But when he saw Fang Yuan smile at the corner of his lips, he was stunned, before reacting, pointing at Fang Yuan as he scolded laughingly. "What a junior brother you are, actually lying to this senior brother, watching my desperation. You look so confident, it is obvious you already have a plan. Ha ha ha. Old Bai, you have amazing vision. I could not lie to you." Fang Yuan laughed loudly, admitting it. "What method do you have? Aren't you going to tell me?" Fang Yuan replied. "I had already told you the background of this matter. Immortal Crane Sect said I was their disciple because they were afraid of the other 9 great sects' interference. This is their weakness, and is something I am going to use to make a breakthrough. What are you going to do?" Fang Yuan did not keep it from him. "I already have a plan to send a letter to Spirit Affinity House, establishing our first contact." Earlier, Fang Yuan had asked about Spirit Affinity House's information from Mo Yao for this purpose. Tai Bai Yunsheng was worried again. Establishing a relationship now and only sending a letter, isn't that too late? The 10 great sects compete with each other, but they also cooperate. Is it possible that Spirit Affinity House would reject your letter and give it to Immortal Crane Sect to express goodwill? Of course not, because this letter is very special. Fang Yuan was extremely confident. Chapter 655, Deducing a Gu Recipe. Many flashes of inspiration appeared in his mind. Countless ingredients and Gu worms formed into many different ideas. The thoughts in his mind were also being consumed at a rapid rate. Such intense expenditure had far exceeded Fang Yuan's own limit in thinking speed. The power of a rank 9 Gu is truly terrifying. In fact, I have not even refined wisdom Gu. I am only using a bit of its light of wisdom. Fang Yuan sighed in shock as he went out of the wisdom light halo. He was deducing and perfecting the refinement recipe of gruel mud immortal goo. Unlike beforehand when he reflected on the current situation or the changes in his body, perfecting an immortal goo recipe needed many more fields of consideration. A set of goo refinement materials contained up to tens of hundreds of different materials, not to mention the grouping and coordination of different goo worms. Precisely because of this, the wills in Fang Yuan's mind were depleting at a shocking rate. After a few days of accumulating wills, they were all expended in a dozen breaths' time. The result of this was an advancement of less than 0.1% in the deduction of gruel mud goo's recipe. But to get such progress, if I did this alone without the help of the light of wisdom, I would need at least half a year. Fang Yuan estimated a dozen breaths' time in exchange for half a year's time. This showed the great power of wisdom goo. But Fang Yuan was not satisfied. Deducing goo recipes required too many areas of consideration. Too many of his wills were being consumed, and too quickly. The wills that he accumulated in a few days were quickly used up in such a short time. The result was, he could not deduce more than 0.1% of the goo recipe. Fang Yuan's original plan was to use wisdom goo to deduce immortal goo recipes, before selling them in Treasure Yellow Heaven for profit. But now he encountered a problem. Deducing a mortal goo recipe requires a great amount of will. But mortal goo produced too little will each time. Even though I have been using these mortal goo to create wills at full capacity these days, I have almost pushed them to their limits. If I exceed this, the mortal goo will be damaged, unless I use the rank 6 delight in water and mountain goo. Fang Yuan thought about it for a while before deciding to give it a go. He consumed 1 bead of green grape immortal essence, activating delight in water and mountain goo. Swoosh! The immortal goo floated above his head, bursting out with a brilliant and dazzling light. The light poured down, like a heavenly river, injecting into Fang Yuan's mind. This joyful will was produced at such a grand scale. Compared to rank 5 mortal wisdom path goo, the will they produced was like a puddle of water. Meanwhile, this joyful will was produced like a great river, as expected of an immortal goo. Fang Yuan was overjoyed. Joyful will continued to pour and inject into him. Only after a long while did it stop. In Fang Yuan's spacious mind, a third of it was filled with joyful will. Special will was a golden color, appearing like sand. Joyful will was bright yellow. That is to say, as long as I activate delight in water and mountain goo 3 times, my mind would be filled completely. No wonder the market in Treasure Yellow Heaven would have those wisdom path goo that can make the mind more spacious. Fang Yuan gained some enlightenment from his experiment. Strength path goo worms modified the goo master's body. In contrast, wisdom path goo worms modified the person's mind. Fang Yuan entered the wisdom light halo once again, falling into deep thoughts. Euphoria. This felt way too good. Like there were no limits binding him. Everything was clear. For any difficult problem, a breakthrough could be attained in a flash. The only difference was, the harder the problem, the more will would be expended. A vast amount of refinement materials were chosen one by one. Countless goo worms were combined into groups and tested at lightning speed, before splitting them apart again. Fang Yuan showed off his great skills. He felt that there was no problems in this world that could trouble him. This feeling was splendid. Only until all of the joyful will was expended, did Fang Yuan leave the light of wisdom reluctantly. He felt that only a dozen breaths' time had passed by since then. But in reality, 7 minutes had gone by already. Puff! Fang Yuan let out a sigh of turbid air. He shook his head. After leaving the light of wisdom, he immediately went back to his former self. He was still that zombie with slow cognitive abilities. The great difference felt like falling from heaven into hell. Fang Yuan breathed in deeply, adjusting his emotions as he inspected the fruits of his labor, the progress of the deduction of gruel. Mud immortal goo's recipe advanced by 1%. Compared to before, this was huge progress. Fang Yuan nodded, but he soon shook his head again. He silently left the underground cave, going to Dang Hun Mountain's palace. Junior brother, how is the situation? Tai Bai Yunxing had been waiting inside the palace for some time. He quickly asked Fang Yuan in concern. He was covered in dust and sand. He had just returned after inspecting the western area of Hu Immortal Blessed Land. Take a seat. Fang Yuan waved to him, taking a few big steps to the main seat and sitting down. Tai Bai Yunxing looked at Fang Yuan with a curious gaze after choosing the seat closest to him. He knew that Fang Yuan was using wisdom goo to deduce an immortal goo recipe. Not long ago, he had followed Fang Yuan into the underground cave, and had looked at wisdom goo from far away. He had finally obtained a lifespan goo from Fang Yuan some time ago. He had limited lifespan, and did not dare to get close to this legendary goo worm. Fang Yuan leaned on the stone block like it was a chair. His legs were spread open and a pair of his arms were placed on his leg. One pair was crossed over his abdomen, while another pair was at the handle of the seat. The final pair was crossed over his chest. He sat with a grand posture, like an unmoving mountain. He was still and silent, like a giant statue. He sighed, saying, "Mortal goo were not efficient to use. I tried using the wisdom path. Immortal goo delight in water and mountain. The river of joyful will that it produced, under the light of wisdom, allowed my goo recipe deduction to progress by 1%. Tai Bai Yunxing heard this and stood up from his seat in excitement. He showed evident joy on his face. 1%? As expected of the rank 9 wisdom goo. That means, if we use it 100 times, we will be able to deduce an immortal goo recipe? With these immortal goo recipes, we can sell them in treasure yellow heaven. This is a huge treasure chest that can yield us endless profits. By then, we will have an unceasing flow of immortal essence stones. To think that after becoming a zombie, Junior Brother can actually receive such benefits. These days, Tai Bai Yunxing had been worrying over cultivation resources. He found out that after becoming a goo immortal, he needed much more cultivation resources. When goo master cultivate, they nurture their apertures. When goo immortal cultivate, they nurture their immortal aperture. There are many different ways one can nurture an immortal aperture. But the ultimate goal was the same, that is to make the immortal aperture's small world more vibrant and diverse, planting more varieties of plants in the immortal aperture, bringing in more animals, improving the cycle of life and establishing a proper food chain, nurturing and feeding more varieties of goo worm groups. The more prosperous the immortal aperture, the greater life force it would have, and the faster immortal essence would be produced in the immortal aperture. This was the cultivation path of goo immortals. This was their way of improving. Thus, in Treasure Yellow Heaven, not only were goo worms and goo recipes sold, there were also the sale of beast groups, vegetation, mysterious stones, precious water, and so on. Looking at Tai Bai Yunxing's excited look, Fang Yuan nodded in satisfaction. It seems that my method of asking you to inspect who immortal blessed land and becoming familiar with the cultivation path of goo immortals is very effective. You have finally realized the importance of cultivation resources. But unfortunately, although selling immortal goo recipes is a very profitable trade, we temporarily cannot engage in that. Ah, why is that? Tai Bai Yunxing was confused. Because the investment is too great. Fang Yuan sighed. To get something from nothing, to deduce a rank 6 immortal goo recipe, the amount of green grape immortal essence we would need to expend is at least over 100. Junior Brother, didn't you deduce 1% of this immortal goo recipe? That is because what I was deducing was the gruel mud immortal goo remnant recipe. I told you before, earlier I had engaged in the trade of gruel mud, thus I obtained many gruel mud immortal goo remnant recipes. But after I collated these remnant recipes, I only obtained the 60% remnant recipe. Fang Yuan answered. Tai Bai Yunxing was not stupid. He immediately understood Fang Yuan's words. With the light of wisdom, no problem could trouble Fang Yuan. Under normal circumstances, if he encountered difficulty when deducing goo recipes, they would be hard to resolve. If he was lucky and had a burst of inspiration, he would be able to think of a solution. But if he was unlucky and could not resolve this problem, he would be stuck there for years, or even decades without making any progress. But with wisdom goo, Fang Yuan faced no difficulty when deducing goo recipes. Even if Fang Yuan encountered a problem that he could not solve due to his foundations, he just needed to think more. Using the light of wisdom to think, he only needed to consume more wills in order to resolve this problem. In this way, immortal goo recipes were easier to deduce towards the later parts. A 60% remnant recipe means it already has a general direction. This could allow Fang Yuan to rule out a large number of goo refinement elements. On this basis, he progressed by 1% of the deduction. That is to say, if he started from zero, from scratch, and deduced the recipe from nothing, it would be extremely difficult. He would not even reach 1%. Fang Yuan continued. I only have 18 green grape immortal essence beads, while you have 26. Who immortal blessed land only has 64 beads of by whose immortal essence. But you and who immortal land spirit cannot be under the wisdom light halo. Even if I lend delight in water and mountain immortal goo to you, the joyful will that you create cannot be used by me. At this point, the gruel mud remnant recipe is the most promising of them, but it also requires about 40 beads of immortal essence from us. Don't forget that we are not safe now. Northern Plains goo immortals and immortal crane sect are going to find trouble with us. Especially if wisdom goo is exposed. I'm afraid every Gu immortal in the 5 regions would charge towards us with killing intent. Yes, the investment is too big, and we also need to preserve some green grape immortal essence as a preemptive measure to guard against enemies and accidents. Tai Bai Yunxing nodded. He sighed deeply and looked at the ground. He accepted this fact in disappointment. But immediately after, he raised his head, his eyes shining with light. I have an idea. Junior brother, I remember you told me about the matter with Lang Yuan spirit. Master told you about the secrets of 88 True Young building. Thus when you requested help from Lang Yuan spirit, you said you deduced it yourself. That caused Lang Yuan spirit to assume you were a wisdom path Gu master, and it wanted to work with you to perfect Gu recipes. Oh. Fang Yuan pretended to jolt into realization. He showed an appropriately excited expression on his face. There is such a thing. After becoming a zombie, my brain is so useless, I did not think of this. Old Bai, you were completely right. The best remnant recipe that I have right now is the 60% gruel mud immortal Gu recipe. There must be many remnant recipes in Lang Yuan spirit's hands. He probably has remnant recipes with a much higher completion rate. Junior brother, you are familiar with Lang Yuan spirit, and you also know the method to enter Lang Yu blessed land. We can totally cooperate with Lang Yuan spirit. Tai Bai Yunxing thought about this amazing plan and laughed loudly and heartily.